Good morning and welcome to this meeting of the Licensing Subcommittee this morning. The subcommittee today is made up of Councillors Jackie Davies, Councillor Ollie Waring and Councillor Andrew Waldridge. The first item of business is the appointment of a chair for the meeting. Can I ask subcommittee members to nominate a chair for today's meeting?
Yeah, morning everyone. I'd nominate Councillor Waldridge.
And I would like to second that, please.
Thank you, Councillor Waldridge. You are duly nominated and in the chair. Councillor Waldridge, you're on mute.
That's never a good start, is it? That's really, it was a long pause. Right. Thank you. This meeting is being broadcast live, recorded, and will be made available on the Council's YouTube channel. The agenda is available on the Council's website by following the links to Your Council and Decision Making, Consultations and Surveys, and then Committee Agendas and Minutes. The quorum for this meeting is 3 members, and all will need to be present at all time. If any subcommittee member or the legal advisor lose connection, we will pause to allow them to rejoin as soon as possible. To reduce feedback, could everyone mute their microphones whilst speaking? While not speaking even. After the subcommittee has heard the submission, I will ask if members have any requests on the submission. Members can also indicate that they wish to speak by using the chat function. Please do not use the chat function to ask questions of officers or members, and remember that all meeting participants on the video call will be able to see what has been entered into the chat. Please also keep mobile phones in silent mode or switched off during the meeting. I am Councillor Andrew Waldridge. I will now introduce the other participants in the meeting. Myself, Andrew Waldridge, Councillor Jackie Davis, Councillor Ollie Waring, Guy Bishop, our legal advisor, Binny Day, our licensing officer, and then of course we have the applicant Damon Wellman for STIR 777 Limited. There are 6 valid representations from other people, 4 in support and 2 against the application. None of the persons who made representations have registered to speak. We also have a member of Democratic Services in attendance. Declaration of interest. Does any member of the subcommittee have a pecuniary interest, non-registrable interest, or other registrable interest to declare in relation to either of the applicants today?
Nothing to declare.
Thank you. Minutes. Can we confirm the minutes of the meetings held on the 11th of March 2024 as a correct record?
Yes, of course.
I will sign them at a later date. The parties have already been notified of the usual procedures for licensing hearings as set out on pages 3 to 5 of the agenda. Paragraph 57 on page 4 of the agenda pack deals with notification of the decision following the subcommittee's deliberations. This will firstly be confirmed by email later today, and full details and reasons will follow within 5 working days. Are there any objections to proceedings on the basis of these or those procedures? Thank you. We move on to the hearing, which is STIR 777, 48 High Street, Kingston, KT11HN. Application for a new premises license under the Licensing Act 2003. Please see Appendix A on page A1 of the agenda. I will now call on Binny Day, the licensing officer, to introduce the report on the application.
Thank you, Joe. Just before I introduce this application that is to be heard during the meeting, I'd just like to preface that there are 2 applications to be determined today in respect to the same premises under 2 separate pieces of legislation, and as such are to be held separately under separate meetings. The application for a premises license is to be determined in accordance with the Licensing Act 2003, the Secretary of State's guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003, and in accordance with the Council's licensing policy, whereas the application for a sex establishment license is to be determined in accordance with Schedule 3 of the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1982, as amended by the Policing and Crime Act 2009 and the Council's policy on the licensing of sex establishments. This application that will be heard during this meeting is for a new premises license, which relates to STIR 777 48 High Street, Kingston upon Thames, KT1 1HW. The application was made on 19th of February 2024 by STIR 77 Limited. The application seeks the grant of a new premises license to authorise the playing of recorded music and performance of dance, both indoors, Monday to Thursday from 2200 to 0300 the following morning, and Friday to Saturday from 2200 to 0500 the following morning. Also, the sale by retail of alcohol for consumption on the premises, Monday to Thursday from 2200 to 0230 the following morning, and Friday to Saturday from 2200 to 0430 the following morning. Relevant pages of the application form are attached at Annex 1, and the proposed hours of operation are laid out in Annex 2. The premises already benefits from a premises license that authorises the sale by retail of alcohol on Thursday from 2200 to 0230 and Friday to Saturday from 2200 to 0330, and the provision of recorded music and the performance of dance on Thursday from 2200 to 0300 and Friday to Saturday from 2200 to 0400. A new premises license has been applied for to add days and hours for licensable activities whilst protecting the existing premises license. In addition, the applicant has made a separate application under the Local Government Miscellaneous Provisions Act 1982 to seek the grant of a license to provide sexual entertainment for the same days and hours applied for within this application. I confirm that the applicant has advertised the application by way of public notice displayed at the premises and in a local newspaper. The application has also been made available on the Council's website. I confirm that all responsible authorities received a copy of the application. The Council's Trading Standards Officer raised concerns regarding the application. This representation relates to the protection of children from harm licensing objective. Following further consultation, the applicant has addressed the concerns by making amendments to the operating schedule. These amendments are reflected in the conditions shown in Annex 3 of this report. In light of these amendments, the concerns raised by trading standards have been satisfied and no representations were received from responsible authorities. In accordance with the Council's licensing policy, 538 addresses were consulted in writing and informed that an application had been received. 6 valid representations were received from other persons, 4 in support and 2 against the application. The representations make reference to matters that relate to the prevention of crime and disorder and prevention of public nuisance licensing objectives. Copies of the representations are attached at Annex 4. A map showing the approximate location of the premises is attached as Annex 5, with photographs attached as Annex 6. In considering this report, the subcommittee is required to take into account the Secretary of State's guidance issued under Section 182 of the Licensing Act 2003, our licensing policy, and the licensing objectives. The Council's statement of licensing policy includes guidelines on trading hours, and these guideline hours are shown in the tables contained within Annex 7. The subcommittee is asked to determine the application having regard to the representations received and any evidence heard at the hearing, in line with the options set out in paragraph 16 of the licensing report. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Benny. Members, do you have any questions for the officer?
I have a quick question. So this establishment's been open for a few years. Are you aware of any complaints received by anybody, neighbours, or anything that we should know about?
No, so the only complaint to note is just a single complaint regarding entry to the premises. However, the matter was dealt with the police and resolved subsequently after. But other than that, no substantial complaints. Yes, Councillor Waring.
Binny, when was that complaint, please?
That was done in, bear with me one moment, I'll bring up the complaint. (2018).
Any further questions for Mr. Day? No. Okay, thank you. I now call on the applicant Damon Wellman for Stir 777 Limited to give a summary of their application. Paragraph 47 on page 3 of the agenda pack deals with the length of time an application can speak. As none of the persons who have made written representation have registered to speak, the applicant will be accorded up to 5 minutes to present their submission. Kevin, will you advise me when the 1 minute and when the time is up? Would you mind?
I will do so.
Thank you very much. Right, Damon, you have the minutes available. Thank you.
Morning, thank you, Chair. I won't take long. I won't read through the summary that's in the application. I've pretty much already done the summary. For clarification, the complaint that was raised that Benny mentioned in 2018 was when we very first opened. The complaint was to do with when the front door was open, the secondary door, the vinyl on the door didn't fully cover the glass door, which meant you could see into the corridor. That was the complaint. Our corridor actually only houses the entrance, a fire exit, and our office. So that was what the complaint was in 2018. Just to clarify that point, we fixed it by putting more vinyl on the door, on the internal door, wasn't an external door. With regards to this application, this is really to clear up some of our licensing. The premises actually, what's been missed out of the application, the premises also benefits from a license in an alternative company name that we own, which does allow later activity than what has been presented. So license PL 0267, which is A&J 777 Limited, which is another one of our companies, currently allows the sale of alcohol, performance of dance, and recorded music until 2 a.m. all week, and then I think 3 a.m. weekends. So effectively what we're looking for, and it also allows the premises to stay open until 2:30 during the week. So actually the additional timings that we're looking for aren't additional timings during the week. I hope that makes sense. What we're looking to do is to tidy up the licenses that we've got. This new application means that we will submit the current license so that we don't end up with a load of additional licenses. One license will be kept, which is PL 0267, the one I've just explained, and that is kept as a shadow license, which is relatively common, and it allows effectively the freeholder of the premises to use that license should we either lose the license that we're applying for, or there's a review on it, etc., etc. So yeah, so actually what we're looking for really is an additional hour Fridays and Saturdays. I think I put in the summary, I appreciate the fact that this is very late or early, whatever way you want to look at it. That is the industry we're in, I'm afraid. We have had 0 complaints in the 6 years other than the one we explained in 2018. We've had 0 complaints, be that noise, be it disturbance to local residents. We actually have support from the Queen's Reach Residents Association, which we have in writing, but has actually gone over to the other licence. I don't know whether it's going to be the same committee later today. So yeah, our record stands for itself. The other thing that this licence does is we are reducing the numbers. The numbers on the current licence allow the premises to hold 220 people, which to us is just not operational, right? It's not something we're interested in doing anyway. So we've pulled that right down, you'll see in the application, to 65, which is obviously significantly less, but that's how we operate.
You have 1 minute.
No problem. That's how we operate. Less people make less noise. It's much more controllable. In reality, we probably never have more than half of that, which is why we're able to have the record that we've got of no dispersal noise. And bear in mind, we currently run until 4 AM at the moment. And we have been running, as is in the application, Wednesdays for the last 6 months, which has created, again, no complaints. So, and we wanted to do that to show that we can operate during the week without, creating any additional problems. That's pretty much it, Chair. Obviously happy to take questions.
Yeah, thank you. Members, do you have any questions for the applicant? Ollie.
Thank you, Chair. Morning, Mr. Wellman. Just so I'm clear, so you're applying for this pretty much sort of as a shadow license that can be transferred should the operator change. Does that mean that you intend to trade from the next day to these extended hours, or are you having it as a contingency for further down the line? What are your plans after this application?
Thank you, Councillor Waring. No, this isn't a shadow licence. So effectively, this is the opposite. What we're trying to do is get rid of this shadow licence situation. We could have done a not a review, sorry, that's for the other licence. We could have effectively changed the current licence for what we've got, but on change to licensing said, look, just apply for a new licence. There's so many bits and pieces to change on the current licence to make it fit. Just apply for a new one would be much easier and drop the old one. And we agreed and have agreed with the licensing officer that we will drop the current licence, and so that everything can run with the new licence. The licence I was describing, which is the 0267 licence, is an existing licence that sits on the premises. What I'm saying is we could effectively run for it. It's a bit disjointed, but we could run on that licence Monday to Thursday and run on the current licence Thursday, Friday, Saturday, which again is disjointed. It's just much easier if we can just one licence and we run from that. We have no intention of changing over. We have tried to protect the situation of anybody else being able to take over the premises. That was part of the reason why we dropped the numbers. Dropping the numbers to 65 means that unless we operate what we do, it is not commercially viable for anybody else to come in, take over and run it as a nightclub or a very, very, very late night bar.
I see. Sorry, Chair. I see Guy's hands up. I'll let him come in there, but I've got some follow-ups, please.
Yes, Guy, and then we'll come back to some follow-ups. Thank you.
Yeah, it's obviously just following up, Mr. Wellman. Really, once if this is granted, your aim would be to surrender the old one. Is that right? Good. Okay. And you mentioned that there were other changes to the conditions on the old conditions, apart from obviously the capacity condition. Anything else that you want to flag to us?
Yeah, there was a request from the police that we agreed, which was to not, and it's in the application. I can't remember the exact wording. There it is. No supply of on-tapped draft beer or lager. That was a request by the police.
So that's going on?
Yes.
Right.
Yes, that's an additional, that will be an additional what we suggested and have agreed as an additional condition to this license, so that in the future, draft beer, lager, and I think it was also cider actually was to be included in that. It's in the application. That was an additional one. The only other change was so that we don't conflict with the current, because what we said was we would accept all the current conditions, but I think one of them has to be reworded, otherwise it conflicts with an existing condition, and that's to do with numbers, the 65 220 numbers thing.
The other, sorry, last question. Sorry, councillors. The last one was related to the Sunday opening prohibition on bank holidays. I mean, I'm assuming that's to continue.
Yes, what we need to be careful of is obviously running, from Saturday night effectively runs into Sunday. But yes, I think there's a contradiction to do with bank holidays as well, and it's a case of trying to tidy that up so that it actually makes sense.
I'll have a look. Okay.
Thank you.
Ollie, you had a supplementary, then we're going to go to Jackie Davis.
I'll let Binny come in if I may, Chair. He's got his hand up. I imagine that's relevant to what we're talking about.
Indeed it is. Thank you, Binny.
Thank you. No, just for clarification, in regards to one of the amended conditions that Damon was speaking about the restrictions on alcohol sale. So the condition that has been reworded slightly, it can be found in the Annex 3, condition number 8. Yeah. The sale of beers, ciders, ales and lagers shall be restricted to cans or bottles only. But in effect, it's the same condition, slightly reworded.
Okay, thank you, Binny. Ollie.
Okay, just so I'm clear on that, but that allows for the sale of spirits, is that correct?
Yes, so it specifically restricts beer, ciders, ales and lagers, so no mention of spirits. Yeah.
Okay, all right, thank you. I'll come back to that later. So just so I'm clear, Mr. Wellman, are you applying for this license pretty much on the advice of the sort of the council's licensing team to tidy up the various bits you've got in place at the moment?
No, we wanted to have the additional hours, but as opposed to just trying to add the additional hours to the existing license, it made more sense to tidy up the existing license to start from scratch. So it is the existing license with the existing conditions, effectively with the additional hour Fridays and Saturdays, and what effectively works out an additional half hour weekdays. I hope that makes sense.
Yeah, got it. Thank you. And one final one from me, Chair, if I may. Just on the capacity movement, Mr. Wellman, can you give me sort of a history of sort of the maximum capacity you've ever had in the establishment, if it's sort of come close to 220 as it was before? I mean, it seems like quite a drastic drop down. I just wanted to get a sense of what the attendance has been like.
Yeah, of course. So the 220 numbers comes over from, again, I'm afraid, comes over from an old license. We don't use those numbers, and I think the reason we sat at 65 was because I think the maximum that we've ever had was about 68. That's the maximum as operators since 2018. I think we went back and I think we found the busiest night that we had at one time. Obviously, we had a turnover throughout the night, but at one time was 68. So that was why we stuck at 65. That was an acceptable number, having discussed it with the police and discussed it with trading standards and discussed it with licensing, that would make it unoperable financially for anybody else to take over. So the 220, I appreciate 65 is a massive drop, but it does give you some idea. We are not a volume-led premises at all, and hopefully that shows that.
Ollie, that's fine. That you finished? Yes, excellent. Jackie.
Yeah. First of all, thank you for clearing up my confusion about opening times, because what's on the door is very different from what we've been reading. So thank you for that. We've had a representation from someone who says she gets woken up every Thursday night at whatever time it was. And I found that very concerning. You've got a condition 22 about dispersal. You make it sound as if that's very effective, but she says she's being woken up every night. So I don't know quite what's going on, really. Could you just say what you do to mitigate noise? Because I think I'm a very quiet person, but if I'm saying goodbye to people or calling for a cab, even I can be quite noisy in the streets. So I just wonder what you can do.
Yeah, certainly. I'm aware of the that single objection and the premises that that's from. It is disappointing that from our point of view, obviously to get that representation when we have no complaints at all. Not only do we not have complaints, environmental health don't have complaints, the police don't have any complaints, and our neighbours, which is actually the Queen's Reach Residents Association, actually have supported our application because of the fact they don't experience any noise from us, and neither does anybody between us and the complainant. The complainant, that particular complaint, says that from memory that they're woken up regularly at clockwork at 4 a.m. We're not open at 4 a.m. on a Thursday. We shut at 3. So everyone's gone by, in fact, we stopped serving alcohol, I think at 2:30 on a Thursday. So everybody's gone by 3 o'clock. The venue's well and truly been closed over an hour. So it's disappointing that when you actually look at the facts of that complaint, they don't fit. With regards to that, any complaint, whether or not we take it as being vexatious, is still something that we look at. So dispersal is massively important. We don't make any noise in the venue because we're not a noisy venue. So that's not a problem. And we know that because we don't get any complaints. We do regular checks, etc. The dispersal is probably, I would suspect, in the industry, the biggest problem and the biggest complaint. By keeping numbers down, obviously, we significantly reduce dispersal issues. As I say, we're simply not getting the feedback that says we have any dispersal problems. We don't have the feedback on Friday nights, Saturday nights. The complainant hasn't mentioned the fact that we've been open until 2:30 every Wednesday for the last 6 months. So picking out the Thursday did seem a little odd, and we simply don't have that data.
Does the door close at the actual door close at 3 a.m. in terms of staff leaving the premises as well?
Yeah, so I mean, we may well have staff a little bit later. Sometimes they're a little bit earlier. If we're not busy, they'll go early. We don't get, so we have quite a large lobby because we allow people to, if they want to get an Uber, or actually the public transport as you come out of our venue is left, not right, which is where the complaint comes from. So anybody walking to public transport actually goes the opposite direction. They go into the town. We allow anybody that's getting a cab to stay actually inside the venue in the lobby. We have quite a large lobby area. And we do that from a security point. It's policy. We've always done it. We do it at all our venues, the same as we do it for our staff. So again, we don't get on dispersal. We don't get crowds of people outside, and plus the fact we don't have the volume for crowds of people. So yes, I have looked at that complaint, and unfortunately, I just cannot find any evidence of that being the case. And it certainly isn't from, if there is any disturbance, it's not from our venue. There is a lot of disturbance further down that road from, unfortunately, the venue that the complainant lives above. But I will admit that is quite a bit earlier.
Thank you.
Any other further questions? No, fine. Fine. As referred to in the report, the initial concerns raised by the responsible authorities have been satisfied, and no representations have been received from responsible authorities. There were 6 valid representations from other persons, 2 against the application and 4 in support. The representations are set out in page A36 to A41 of the report pack. None of the persons who made representations have registered to speak. The subcommittee will take all the written representations into account in making their decisions. Would the applicant now like to make any closing statement? That's you, Dave.
I don't think so. If everybody's done on questions, I think most of the information is in the actual application. As I previously stated, effectively we're open at the moment. If we take weekends as an example, we're open till 4 at the moment. Alcohol served till 3:30. This effectively, the grant of this application would give us an additional hour. I'd like to think if we're not causing any issues at 4 a.m, we're not causing any issues at 5 a.m. The weekday situation, as I say, we've run for the last 6 months on a Wednesday, running under temporary event notices. We haven't caused any issues. The only issue with regard that's been a representation, as Councillor Davis brought up, is the one relating to Thursdays, which I can't find any evidence of that. And if there is anything else that we can do, we certainly will. But I think the evidence of our operation for the last 6 years pretty much speaks for itself. So, yeah, thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Damon. The subcommittee will now withdraw and make its decision. The decision will be confirmed to all parties by email, and the full decision notice with reasons will then be sent to all parties within 5 working days. Can I please ask the members of the subcommittee to reconvene in the decision meeting at 10:45 for the decision. The next hearing will start at 11:45. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks.
Thank you.